Hello, everyone. Welcome to the August 2025 Carbon Leadership Forum of Boston Northeast Reuse Working Group. We have a great meeting for you today. We have a presentation by the Reuse People of America. Ted, out of the left coast, as he keeps saying, is going to give a presentation on kind of not only the reuse people, but also deconstruction, how he sees it, policies, the whole shebang. We'll say after the presentation, please keep all questions. You could write them in the chat, and we'll have people raise hands at the end to ask any questions. And then afterwards, if we still have time, Olivia and I would love to go over, and I think there's some others here who went to the Build Reuse Conference, talk about that, which was last week, and host any other questions you all may have. With that, though, Olivia, anything else before we start the presentation?
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So without further ado, Ted, if you want to take it away, please.
Very much, Olivia and Michael. I appreciate the opportunity. Ted Reiff with Reuse People. My contact information will be probably on the last slide. So anybody who wants to get in touch with me, either by email, that's on there, and my phone number. I welcome all questions and discussions. So there are several benefits of deconstruction. One of them we recently ran across, it was about 3 years ago at a school, the Theodore Roosevelt High School in East LA. They were taking down some portable classroom buildings to build permanent structures. These 4 paintings were on the end caps. So they were portable classrooms, as you can imagine. They were on the end caps of the portable classrooms, and all the artwork was done by students at the high school. And when they were demolishing or wanted to demolish those and get rid of those portable classrooms, we suggested, and they went along with it, that we cut out these end caps and literally preserved it as artwork to be used in the school, especially considering the culture of the community. Another certainly is historic. One of the more interesting things, and I could talk about any one of them, but the one on the upper left-hand side, the bookends, that's from Ray Bradbury's last home that he lived in the Shoy Hills of Los Angeles. We deconstructed it for some architects that bought it, a husband and wife team, and those are 2x6 tongue and groove Douglas fir bookends that are from the that was the sheathing on the roof, because the roof was supporting tile, the old tile roofs. And we made 451 of them and numbered them each, 1 of 451. We got the executrix of the state to sign off on it and include a verification letter. And we sold 451 bookends or sets of bookends within 2 weeks. The others below that on the left is a hospital on the old Nels Reformatory, which is the oldest one in the state of California. When that whole property was bought by a developer, those buildings were coming down, and the local historic people wanted 3 of the buildings deconstructed and the material salvaged. That was one of them we worked on. The thing in the middle we never worked on with the Lucky Strike stack there. That is, in my opinion, the finest example of adaptive reuse in the United States. It is the American Tobacco Company, and now it's entertainment facilities, offices, and some living quarters. Just an excellent example. The others were from San Francisco City College. Those are reliefs, concrete reliefs, designed by one of the foremost at the early stages of concrete designers, and from San Francisco, a gentleman by the name of Sergeant Johnson. Yes, Sergeant is his first name. And on the bottom there is just simply a building called the Lourdes Tower in Phoenix. That building was demolished, but a separate person came to us and literally paid our team for about 3 weeks, almost a month, to take down as much of the terracotta as was possible, and he wanted it. So we did that, and then the building was destructed. So certainly historic issues apply. Environmental obviously applies. It's in the first part of everybody's mind. That's Mount Rainier in the background, not very appetizing foreground, however. Embodied energy, this is a key as far as I'm concerned in a lot of issues. Every square foot of, or every pound of lumber contains approximately 1,072 BTUs of energy. And that's our lumber yard, a portion of our lumber yard there in Oakland. And the amount of energy that's within those stacks is quite horrendous. Also, it improves the standard of living. People on low incomes can afford to buy something like having to buy a used car. The prices are lower. Yeah, the risks are a little higher, but the prices are very enticing. These happen to be in Tijuana. The floods in 92 and 93, we provided over 2,000 garage doors. And that's what those three houses you see are made out of. Much better than the cardboard shacks that they were living in the low-lying river area. Training and education is a huge issue. One of the reasons we got into training was people. Number one, people were demanding it, but number two, we noticed, and especially true today, is of all the contracts, commercial and residential, that are signed in the construction trade today, are 25% behind on labor. So we thought that doing a deconstruction an education in deconstruction was a great entry level, almost like a private, now becomes a private first class when he enters the military because he's got some kind of training behind them. So it's a real step forward for particularly young at-risk youth. Regarding training and the way that we were spreading the word is we have several programs. We started in 2005. We were actually training contractors and then we're certifying them. And these were the only contractors that we would recommend to people who would call us and say, okay, I'd like to deconstruct my premises. We're going to deliver the materials to you, but who do I call? Who does this? We will accept materials from those who aren't certified, but we certainly won't refer others unless we have certified them. And the way we certify is pretty intensive. They literally have to deconstruct 2 houses to our specifications. And then there's many other things like such as risk and that sort of thing. We started training in 2007. We were approached by the state of California to train the California Conservation Corps in taking down buildings that were on state property, particularly in the older buildings in the state park system. Safety, I have been for years an OSHA trainer, and we trained all of our deconstruction contractors to OSHA standards. We train all of our students to OSHA standards, and that's been a big deal. And I've trained many contractors in it because safety is a key issue in deconstruction. We conduct workshops on deconstruction every quarter at our facility. We have up to 10, 15 people in each one of those every quarter. Anybody can join, homeowners, contractors, architects, designers, anybody who's interested in something. It's basically an introduction. It's like a 10,000-foot view of deconstruction, if you will. We also did a workhouse training program, which didn't go over very well. We did 3 or 4 of them, and it's since we're not doing any. And next week we are training contractors in the Alameda County, that's up in the Bay Area, how to do deconstruction survey trainings, meaning identifying each of the materials that are worth salvaging and saving through deconstruction. So that's we're kind of big in spreading the word through our training programs. This was the California Conservation Corps, the classroom on the left. Oh, there's a woman standing back there. She is an international designer of education materials, and we were fortunate enough to engage her on taking my thoughts and making it look like an intelligent person wrote them. So it's a 100-page workbook that the students get when they go through our training program. The other benefits, of course, are fewer landfills, and the why fewer landfills. If you think about it, landfills pay the least. If they're city owned or municipality owned, they don't pay any real estate taxes. If they're privately owned, they pay some, but they certainly are nowhere near as high as what you might pay as a resident or a commercial uh, organization. So as we get rid of them and develop that land, or develop land that might have been a landfill, that certainly benefits the cities, municipalities. There are tax credits, which we'll get into for a minute. They're primarily designed only for historic commercial projects. On residential, there are clearly very big, we're like any other nonprofit organization, anything that's donated to us in our mission that represent tax deductible donations. In that endeavor, we have our appraisers have qualified over $250,000 in appraised materials that we have received, which yield about 90 million of actual tax benefit or cash in the pocket, if you will, to our donors. I can get into more details if anybody wants it on deconstruction, what the tax benefits are for both commercial and residential, but we can save that for later if we've got time. Here's some brief examples of what can happen on residential structures. Three big disadvantages: time, money, and distribution. Time, if a bulldozer takes, for a residential structure, takes 10 days or takes 1 day, we take 10. It's not quite as bad in the commercial sector, and we'll get into that and the reasons why in a moment. But money, yeah, deconstruction always costs more money, at least to date, until we bring in a little more technology and have robots starting to deconstruct our structures. Distribution is the biggest thing. In residential, it's fairly easy. We've got 15 doors in every residential project and maybe 15 or 20 windows. In a commercial project, we're looking at 450 doors. We're looking at 30 to 40, 50,000 square feet of carpet tile and the same amount of ceiling tile. So how do we handle and where do these materials go? Deconstruction is the biggest problem in any type of deconstruction. Commercial. There are tax credits for historical preservation. If they're not on the historical register, but are still by local being are listed as historic, then there's 10% available through the federal government as a tax credit to the developer. If it is on the federal register, there's up to 20%, which is a huge number as a tax credit, not a tax deduction, but a tax credit. That's a 1-for-1 offset against tax liability. So it is a big number. The feds have been issuing historically about 1,000 projects a year or fall under those, both the 10% and the 20% projects. But the beauty of the Fed's commitment to that is it entices private money in the billions of dollars then flowing in right behind those projects and further developing them. Tax deductions for commercial, they're limited to 5% of after-tax net income, which is not a heck of a lot. The other problem is, in most instances, the owners of those buildings have depreciated them to almost nothing. In fact, many are nothing. And once they've been depreciated, that is not eligible for tax deductible donation. Public image. Yeah, I see we're being cut off a little bit. Anyway, the public image is a major issue with most major corporations today, based on their corporate philosophy. I don't know of any large corporation that does not have a sustainability department today. So, for instance, the proposed structure may be controversial. If it's residential, it could be too much traffic. If it's commercial, it could be too much noise. It could be, if you're on the coastal regions, there could be blocking of sight lines. So deconstruction can helps by A, promoting the company's interest in reuse in the environment, which can be shown to the public that, hey, it's kind of the right thing to do. There are additional jobs. Most general contractors on a large scale will hire a certain percentage right from the local community. That is a major plus, especially in today's economy. And again, the company's own idea of simply willing to do the right thing. All of these may result in a faster permit approval, and we have been involved in a couple of those in recent years, where the cities will grant the permits faster than they might ordinarily. The other benefits, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with them, are LEED, be it anywhere from just certified through platinum. The higher the silver, gold, and platinum, if that is how the building is listed, then if it goes up for sale, it's got a lower operating cost and should require more money to buy it because it's cheaper to operate for the owner. Commercial building thinking. In the Bay Area, and if anybody wants it, I can send you a copy of it or a link to it. Gensler and ourselves did a study in 2022, which we found that TI removal versus a straight building demolition or deconstruction was 20-1, meaning for every one building complete demolition, there were 20 to 21 other buildings which were only clearing out the TIs. And that has caused, because of the Bay Area is such a technical area, two guys forming a business rent 500 square feet. Next year, they just hired 30 people. The following year, they hired 300. And by the following year, they had 3,000. So the terms of their leases are very liberal. They're reduced terms, 1, 2, 3, 4-year terms, not 10, 20, or 30. But it's almost all based, all those new leases today. And again, this is what we found in the Bay Area. The landlord is requiring that tenant to return, when they leave, is to return the space to a warm lit space, meaning clearing out every TI they put in. Is energy efficient? Absolutely, especially on older buildings. In 1920, there was a study done by an architect professor named Robert A. Young out of Utah, wrote a book several years ago, and found that buildings built in 1920 and earlier were more efficient to operate than buildings built until 1930. Until 1993. So it was a 70-year period before the construction industry and building owners were able to start matching the energy savings and the easy cost of operating a building that was built in 1920 and earlier. So look at the results of a TI project. Here's one from Meta. Excuse me, I'm not supposed to say that. It wasn't Meta anyway. This is Google. You see the doors are stacked over on the upper left-hand corner, unitized, ready to ship. I think there's roughly 22 doors to a pack. And to the right is the hardware put in speed packs, which we also save. And you see on the right there, they're picking up the carpet tile. On the bottom, there's carpet tile ready to be loaded out, banded or shrink wrapped, palletized. And there you see our trucks pulling out. And we take care of all those issues, which I could get into in a moment. But that is the kind of things we do. So the steps for deconstruction that we follow and what we do is we provide a survey. which is a list of basically all the reusable fixtures. Not a finite list, but a pretty good close, and all the non-fixed assets that we think can be salvaged, depending upon whether it's a TI improvement or a whole building takedown. That survey we do at no cost, and we provide the results in a printed form to the owner or the CM or the GM if they're acting instead for the owner. However, if the owner then wants an inventory audit, then I'll describe what that is. That will be compensated to us or to be paid for by the owner. And that is a line item inventory, including firm count and the description. They're grouped by A, B, C, D, and that's by ease of removal. For instance, ceiling tile are quite easy to remove, as opposed to some framing member if the whole building is taken down. So we list them by ease of literally A, B, and C, all the way up to Z if we need to, if there's many different kinds of material. But the other thing we do, most importantly, is to the right of those groupings, we describe what the actual handling and packaging requirements are for the deconstruction contractor and that they must follow. That is an excellent guide then for the general contractor or the owner to see what are the costs of taking out some of those more expensive items. And they can then say, okay, we like A, B, and C, and maybe E, but we don't like D, F, G, and H, or whatever it is. So they can pick and choose what they actually want. Then there's another management portion of what we offer, and that is during the deconstruction process, we will have on hand, at least during the TI portion, even if the whole building's coming down, but during the TI portion, we will put someone on site, not every day, not every hour, but 2, 3, 4 days a week, 2, 3 hours a day. And we will ensure that those materials are getting packaged as specified. And we're also handling the loading, and we're also handling the transportation and who the receiver of those materials are. In addition, we provide a diversion report, which includes photographs, weights, calculations of embodied energy and carbon, and anything else, any other requirements that the owner might have. And that can be a 10-page to a 30-page report, depending upon what the size of the project is. Many of you might know this, but just a quick review, there's roughly, according to the EPA, there's a little over 6 million commercial buildings standing. There's 44,000 of those that are demolished every year. And there's 170 general new additions every year. So there's net addition of over 100,000 a year in the commercial stock only. Let's look at some case studies. This is one of our first projects we did. It's smaller in scale. It's at North Star Ski Resort in Truckee, California. It's a 20,000 square foot building. If you notice, those white columns are on 16 by 16 centers. They're concrete, and they're basically what's holding up the roof and holding up the second floor. Everything is based on that 16 by 16 measurement. And what we did is we decided that it was too expensive to have our crews on the roof clearing off 10,000 square feet of that's insulation is 8 inches thick, and it's got a rubberized base and a rubberized top. So our whole crew would be up there for almost a week just trying to clear it. We did the calculations, we got an engineer to support it, and we were able to put a bobcat up on the roof with the driver. We cut a hole in the roof in one corner of the building and put a 40-yard roll off below it. And we had the entire roof scraped off and ready to start deconstruction by the next day. Going back, and because that was built on a 16 by 16 foot square, we cut the top or the roof off from the top in 16 by 16 sections. right over those columns. And we did the same thing on the second floor, and then we used a 40-yard crane to come in and pick that roof section up, or pick that floor section up, set it on the ground, and that way we could still be working. Other people could be working other parts of the building, and we could be deconstructing without having safety equipment and safety gear on, fall protection particularly. Obviously, we still had hard hats and that sort of thing. But it certainly improved the efficiency of the operation. It was a restaurant, childcare facility, and ski rental shop originally, as I mentioned, 20,000 square feet. We charged $134,000 for the deconstruction, and we deconstructed it to the concrete poles and the concrete slab it was based on. There was no appraisal because of it was just too difficult with how the ownership was structured, so there was no appraisal of the materials. The days to deconstruct were 25. We had 20 people working full time, 25 days. We worked Saturdays, but not Sundays. Equipment, we had the 40 tons crane, and you could see the rest of all the other equipment. We had high reach forklifts, scissor lifts, etc. The bid to demolish was $100,000. So, we weren't far off, and that is typical. It's, in the residential section, it's 2.5 to 3 times more than traditional demolition in order to deconstruct. It's nowhere near that. 1 time or 1.5 times to 2 times more is the maximum on the commercial sector. What else? Oh, there's a diversion. We had 115 tons were salvaged for reuse. In addition to that, there were 21 tons of wood that was ground up and used that they needed on site because they had chewed it up enough and they wanted to protect it. So they used it as a mulch.
Okay.
And then there was 30.8 tons of metal that was recycled. The organization received a lead silver for that project, primarily because of 3 points they had gotten from deconstruction. Here's a goodie. Probably the most famous project we ever did, Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions, was filmed in the county of Alameda at the old Alameda Naval Air Station, which would have been decommissioned. And this was filmed on the old runway. They blacktopped it, and then they put the road markings on it and so forth. But there were 3 major sets. Just 2 of them I've got photographs here. Obviously, the one on the top left is right from the movie. It is supposed to be the 101 freeway in Los Angeles. To the right at the top, that is supposedly a 9-story tenement building where our hero Eon was fighting Agent Smith in pretty much one of the opening scenes of the movie. And Smith was duplicating and triplicating himself, but of course our hero won. The film, or the picture right below that, is of the framing that was in it. You see there's a lot of truss joist in there. And the walls were strictly Luan over 2x4 and 1x4 framings. So there wasn't anything particularly solid except for the flooring, obviously. There were also, which you'll see in another picture that I'll show, there were also balconies on each of those where those windows are. There were steel balconies on there. I think there was a total of like 35 or 40 of the steel balconies, which we did salvage. Keep an eye on that bridge up above in the upper left. Oh, I'm sorry, in the bottom right, those are the TIs coming out of of the project above. And that whole project, except for the freeway chase scene, was done in one of the hangars where they built and rebuilt and refurbished the aircraft, the military aircraft. So as I said, keep an eye on that bridge up there because it'll come up in a couple of ideas. Below that looks like a concrete wall. It's not. It's OSB sprayed with gunite. They're built in 16 high by 16 wide sections. And they are 2x4, but the 2x4s were notched for 1x, which I'll probably show in another picture here. And we had no idea what the heck we were going to do with those. We were afraid too much of it was going to be damaged. But somebody had an idea, and it wasn't me. I wish I could claim it. Again, there's a shot from the film in the upper left. You see those concrete barriers, supposedly. You see the bridge in the back. If you notice, right on that car that's flipping over, there is a truck crossing the bridge. That is a semi. This bridge was built to DOT standards, and there was traffic all during the movie going back and forth across that bridge. To the right of it is we've removed all the dirt with front end loaders and by hand and with that earth mover. And to the right, those are parts of the bridge. The bridge was made with, if you could see on that center picture at the top, I've got an arrow showing there are 1, 2, 3 across, and those are these bridges. But what they're made out of is railroad cars. These are the flatbed railroad cars with the trucks cut off. And then at the other end, there's 3 more. So there was a total of 9 railroad cars that were used. And there, to the right then is a stack of them on the ground. We sold each one of those as a bridge to farmers who lived out in the outback in the eastern part of the state that had a lot of swales and gullies and that sort of stuff. And I'll show a picture of that in a moment. The here below the car chase, or there was whoop, I'm sorry, let's go back. Are these are the steel what I call them balconies from that one picture, and they're just upside down. And we brought all those back to our warehouse. We sold all the steel support for the bridge. We sold it all on site. We sold these bridges themselves. We sold those on site. Going back to the wall, this is where it gets very interesting. So you see the 2x4s, 16 feet tall. The 1x4s are notched in running across. So deconstructing it, we knew we would ruin the OSB, but we also knew the 2x4s were ruined because they were notched out. The best we could probably salvage are these 2x6s as supports. There were 2 on every section, and there's a 1x8 on the top, and there's a 1x8 on the bottom, and for top plate and bottom plates. That's what we could save, the 2x8s and the 2x6s, and that was it. We were very afraid that our deconstruction disposal was going to be high. Then we had a bright genius on our board who suggested we lay these down there 16 by 16, and then right down the center, next to the center 2x4, we cut them. Now we've got 2 8 by 16 things which we folded together. And if you see on the truck to the right, we stacked them on a semi, and we were able to truck them out. Where would we truck them? Upper left, you see them on the roof of a 2-story garage door house in Tijuana. The producer, Eon Entertainment, Warner Brothers, got a international humanitarian award for the donation of these materials to some nonprofits that constructed these houses in Tijuana. There's a couple of pictures of one of the railroad cars. There's my car on the center of it, just to show you it is for real. There's another picture of the balconies, and then these were stairs for the actors that were behind the set and so forth. There were a bunch of those that we saved. So here are the results. We had 68 days with 25 people. There's again the equipment listed. The cost was $432,000. We do not know what the demolition cost is, but we later found out the only reason we got the bid or the job was that we beat the demolition contractor. And I'm sure the only reason we beat him was because their disposal costs were just gargantuan compared to ours. And you'll see that in a minute. So, well, we also had to rejuvenate. It was a least turns nesting area. So all that ground that we had dug up and where the bridges were and so forth, we had to reseed all of that, replant it, and put it back into a least turns nesting area. Our diversion was the highest we had ever had in any building we had done so far, residential or not. It was 95.2% diversion. 180 tons of lumber, 1,500 tons of steel structure. That included the bridges. 1,000 cubic feet of expanded polystyrene. That, of course, didn't weigh anything. And the big one was the tons of concrete, because if we can go back, I'm going forward. Here we go. If you see in this upper left-hand corner, that is a K-rail down there, right, that those walls are built on. That's a center K-rail. There's another K-rail over on this side. So there was northbound traffic, southbound traffic that were moving at a little over 60 miles an hour. So there was a real danger of somebody losing control and really doing some serious damage to people and the set. So that was the reason for the concrete. So going back, that represented those 7 tons of concrete. We leased right on the site from the city. We leased an acre of ground, brought in 2 concrete grinders, one which ground the big chunks down to 6-inch, and then we had another one that grounded 2-inch, 2.5-inch minus, that was used for road base and that sort of stuff. And that's how we sold it off. And we did that within about 6 months of the finishing. We had it all sold off of the completion of our project. Here's some focus on training. Not contractor training, but this one came pretty close to it. Here's what we did. This came from Harlingen Air Force Base, which was given to down in Harlingen, Texas, which is right off the Rio Grande in southeast Texas. It was an Air Force base for training navigators. It was given to the Texas State Technical College, but the buildings were still on it. Well, not all the buildings. The barracks were on it. There were 13 barracks, and the infrastructure manager from the school, from the university, contacted us to do a training on taking those down. And we reached an agreement that we would do 2 trainings, and in the process, train one of their people to do additional trainings so that they could take down the rest of the structures. And so this is the end of our second training. Here's the part of the lumber stored here. All the barracks were 2-story, just like the ones shown here. And it was used in this building, which was their administration building, which they finished with a lot of the materials. The interior walls were all built with used materials because they were non-bearing. And so it was used, a lot of the used lumber that came out of those. Also, you see it up here in the ceiling. They're used to diffuse the lighting. Here's the big state of Texas star in a waiting room. So they used it in very many places, including, as I say, structural within the walls of many of the offices and classrooms. The key point on all this was quite interesting, but let me go through the specifics here. There were 13 2-story barracks. We did our training that I was involved in, did 2 of them. The third one and beyond was done by the person we trained, who happens to be, excuse me, who happens to be that gentleman here with the group in the white shirt. He was the instructor that we trained on art projects, and the oh, well, I'm not good with my fingers today. Where are we? Come on, training.
I think you're going in the
I'm
wrong.
going in the wrong direction. Jake,
Yes.
uh, who was the pilot? Wrong way, Corrigan. That's me.
Also, we
There
do
we
have
go.
a bunch of questions popping up. So if we could
Sure.
hopefully wrap up in about 5 minutes to hold some time for Q&A.
Yeah, yeah. This is it. So that's the that was the training. Then we had other trainings that we had given, but the beauty of this particular training is all students who passed our test, and we give both a verbal and a written test to all the students. Those who get 70% or higher get a certificate. All those who got a certificate, and all got them but one person, were all hired by the school permanently in the maintenance and building departments. So it was quite interesting. This is the other this is a residential training we did. The first training we ever did in Muncie, Indiana. We did a bunch of these. We trained another person to continue. The results of this one, there were 4 training sessions, 42 students. Um, here's a guy we trained, was a furniture builder and a contractor, completely deconstructed 4 houses. All the students were on home release from the correction center, from the Delaware County Correction Center. 30 of the students, of the 42 students, or 72%, were full-time employed by the end of that session. So other than that, I have a real quick thank you to Bostonians. The reason, the Big Dig House. If you don't know about it, I would highly recommend Googling Big Dig House, and you'll see the information on it. The owner of the house and the builder who was on the Big Dig said the most expensive thing was the transportation of the materials from the Big Dig to his site. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ted.
Questions?
So we have a couple pop up in the chat. One that got a couple of responses. I'll try to get to them all. Is you had said that demolition always takes the cake on cost. It's always going to be the one. However, in one of your examples with the matrix sets, you had said that the reason you won is because it was that much less, with really disposal being the key driver. Does that kind of go against your claim then? And then I elaborated, if you make disposal that much more, in your opinion, is that incentivizing deconstruction?
Oh, absolutely. Well, and that is a good point. This was the only one that we know of where it had been beat. One of the beauties in commercial demolition is they're mostly concrete, and concrete is already recycled. So, from a diversion standpoint, not a reuse standpoint, from a diversion standpoint, they're always going to win. They could throw away all the TIs and still win whatever the diversion requirements, 50%, 60%, whatever the local diversion requirements are. They could still beat it by just recycling the concrete.
Hmm.
But there is going to be more cost in removing the TIs.
Interesting. Another question we had, talking about, in your experience, deconstruction items such as windows, toilets, faucets, really as the building code improves, as energy efficiency standards and resource efficiency standards go on, what can you do with, or have you done with some of these things? Like I said, windows, toilet fixtures, items like that.
Take the windows. The windows, especially if we're talking residential, and I can address commercial a little bit too, but in residential, we've got Title 24. However, if you insulate the hell out of a building, including the roof and including the walls, you can get by with single glazed windows. Now, as a practice, we do not salvage them unless they're architectural. For instance, in the early of last century, we had the Craftsman era, and we had 3/1 windows. 3 lights over one. Those are architecturally significant, and those we would save. If they were stained glass, we would save those regardless of whether they were double glazed or not. Regarding toilets, we still sell top high flow toilets. Nobody gets a permit for replacing their toilet.
Hmm.
And we have plenty of people, we are in the hood, and we have plenty of people who cannot afford a higher price toilet, even though it's used, as opposed to our our high flow toilet. So yes, we do sell some. I
Hmm.
don't know if that helps.
Sure. Yeah, it's really the use case for it all,
Yeah,
and finding best and highest use, I would say, for these materials. Olivia, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah. I know you do the deconstruction trainings, and I know a lot of places that have ordinances require certified deconstruction contractors, and they might do that by running their own trainings through a third party, or they can be, or contractors get their own training, and as long as they show a certificate. So I was curious about your involvement with those policies, either supporting them or providing trainings for different municipalities.
we generally don't support their training. And the reason for it is we haven't seen a training that involves the actual deconstruction of a building. It's all done in a classroom. And particularly on the residential side, I don't think you can teach that. Now, it may be possible you could do that on the commercial side because you're going to be talking to contractors who have crews, for instance, abatement contractors are a good subcontractor to somebody who's got big equipment and is going to do the demolition of the building. But if there's TIs to be removed, the abatement people have already got hand crews that are very talented, and taking those items out can be can probably be done because those are already trained people in construction. The problem with residential is most of the people doing residential deconstruction have never done it before. And so yeah, we do not support the classroom training for residential deconstruction.
Mhm. Yeah, that's interesting because it's almost sounding like you're saying, in terms of commercial deconstruction, that um, learning curve is not so steep and not necessary. So, people who are
Good way to
saying
put it.
like,
Yeah, it's nowhere near as steep.
cool.
Kind of going along with, we've discussed in this group before that on the commercial side, it almost feels like just a little bit of a shift going from the typical demo to a more mindful demo as it moves into soft stripping and kind of evolving that. But on the residential side, it really takes a whole different mindset almost.
It really does. There's no question about that, which is one of the reasons why it's been such a tough sell.
Sure, sure. Um, Only one other question I see, how high are the C&D disposal fees, or how high should they be in order to make the cost of deconstruction kind of more appealing?
It ain't going to happen.
You don't think so?
No, I had predicted many, many years ago that as soon as, from an economic standpoint, as soon as the cost cross each other, at that point of equilibrium, labor cost versus disposal cost. It's primarily labor. Let's face it. And as soon as that line crosses, then it won't be a problem. But in the last 31 years that we've been in business, they haven't even been close to crossing. Both lines are increasing at basically at the same rate.
Interesting. I would ask, do you know your typical tonnage tipping fee for C&D waste in California, I believe, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, it will range anywhere from, depending upon where you go, from a low that I know of $65 a ton, and that's out in the central part of the state, to $125 a ton.
It may be a bit different in the Northeast where, speaking on the contractor side right now, one of the lowest C&D rates, tipping fees on a reputable processor is about 180. So it may be a bit different out here, seeing that there's only a couple landfills left that are looking to close soon, and most of the waste we have is shipped very far away at quite a
Oh yeah.
cost, growing
Well,
cost.
as you well know, Connecticut doesn't even have any C&D landfills anymore.
Sure, Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll get into a couple more things, but Ted, I think that's all the questions. So I wanted to thank you for your time. Everyone on the call will share not only this presentation, but also Ted's contact details as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so
Appreciate it
much,
very
Ted.
much. Thank you, Olivia. Appreciate it. Adios, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, and for those of the group, I just wanted to go over a couple small things. I don't know if Melissa is still here, but the Builders Conference was last week, and a couple of us who are in this meeting had attended. Thought it was really quite great. I didn't take enough photos, but I did take a couple. And Melissa, if you want to talk about it as one of the main what is it called? Organizers. Would love to hear how it went in your opinion.
You caught me on a lazy moment, sitting on my sofa a mile and a half away from the Landmark Center. It was such a pleasure to welcome all of you to St. Paul, for those that could attend, to host for the first time, I believe, the National Builder Use Conference, where attendees came from 3 different continents. And we had a record number of in-person attendees that attended, but we also had probably the highest number of speakers as well. We had so many speaker opportunities that really focused on rethinking the circular economy and getting those ideas shared and generated. It was just a great opportunity for that. We had keynote speakers every single day. Kira Gold, Carl Elefante, and Mayor of St. Paul, Minnesota, Mayor Melvin Carter. So it was energizing, I think, from start to finish, except for those that are on the planning committee, where we were tired before the conference started. But it was a different level of energy that we felt while the conference was going on. And we had a debrief this morning, so we're already talking about things that we can do that's different or better than next year, for next year. And looks like, I don't know if Ted is still on the call, but there's a potential rumor of the Bay Area being the host, but we don't have an application ready. We don't have, these are just still feelers or rumors from during the conference. So we are incredibly grateful that all of you were able to attend, and Zach, our photographer and videographer, will be putting some photos and videos together for anyone to use and share. So it was a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, like I said, I think these are all Olivia's photos. I didn't take many, but for those who weren't there, great venue, fantastic, very historic, pretty cool, and a really cool, not only build reuse, kind of putting it all on, but also all for reuse, saying there's going to be some movement forward about kind of combining with it. So really great to see. Just before the end, just a couple of little items to share. So here we go. This is a lot, and it should be a lot, but in Massachusetts, the Intergovernmental Climate Embodied Carbon Climate Council, whatever that acronym is, as part of the Embodied Carbon Omnibus that passed last year, is looking to put together embodied carbon recommendations for the state. And as of at least this morning or a couple days ago, reached out wants to reach out to this reuse group for recommendations. So we can also link this gigantic law if everyone hasn't read it yet. But really, any recommendations that this group can put together to put forward to this intergovernmental council to see how Massachusetts can not only reduce embodied carbon, but really take a step forward or two in deconstruction, reuse, and salvage. So that's definitely something that came up. And then also wanted to say, in our own neighborhood, BBR, who we've hosted several times, Boston Inland Resources, is looking to continue to evolve a bit, have been doing some residential scale deconstruction, and at least in the next coming months is putting on a couple deconstruction trainings. So the next one that they are doing is on Nantucket. So if you don't want to go to Nantucket, completely understandable, but there will be more in what I'm calling mainland Massachusetts. But these trainings will be bringing in whoever wants to. Obviously, if you work in demolition, if you kind of just want to get an idea of it, but really looking to grow not only their deconstruction outfit, but also others alongside of them to really hopefully push all of this forward. And then, and we can share the link if you want. It's off of Nantucket's to register, so we can share that as well. With that, I think that is mostly everything. Anything else?
say next month, we're planning to have Wei Wang from New York City, and I can't remember her colleague's name right now, but they organized a day-long symposium in New York City around commercial salvage and reuse. So we'll bring them in to talk about one, what's happening in New York, how that symposium went, and their takeaways, and learn from our fellow East Coast city.
Yep. And actually what we can do, so Kristen had asked Olivia if you want to share your presentation. I think so, at least a couple of us who did present at Build Reduce, it might be worthwhile if we can get with our groups, and probably, especially as Olivia didn't have a group, it was just you, to put together a presentation and share with the group as well. I think that would be something we could do. Very much so.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Have mini recaps of it all.
Yeah, and maybe send a quick recap. Yeah, I know that Michelle Lambert of CLF National had requested some of our information just to put together a recap. Not only can we share our own thoughts, but probably share that as well when that's put together. Awesome. With that said, it is 2 o'clock. I'm glad we were able to be timely with all this. Thank you everyone for attending today. As usual, we will send out the recording and some notes along with a description and obviously next month's meeting. I want to thank everyone for attending today, and stay cool out there because it's really gross and hot again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.